We are going to look at solitude and leadership. I always record in 8th grade.
Do you really?
You shouldn't do that because it's like your last chance. Like if you mess up.
Last chance workout.
This is my last chance workout.
My mom always says it out there.
Solitude and leadership. How does William Deresiewicz, all of the questions that I'm about to ask you require you to look at your text. Okay?
Okay.
How does he start? What does he do to hook his audience?
He talks about his title and why he's making the speech. Right there.
We have to look at the text. What?
Is our conversation on there?
Probably.
It's a rhetorical question.
About what? He's not asking a question.
The second sentence.
Yeah, but what does he do first?
It makes you like rethink about his title.
Yeah, he references the title and the fact that it is a what? Contradiction, meaning what?
That it contradicts itself. I don't know how to explain it.
Opposite, kind of.
Yeah, you might. I have this title, Solitude and Leadership, but you must think that those two things are very opposite. When in fact, what's his argument?
They're
They're necessary with each other.
They're necessary. So the first two things he does is he talks about the title contradiction. He states his claim. Then, starting in paragraph 3, this paragraph we need to begin by talking the rest of this page and the first two paragraphs on the next page. What does he shift his focus to? What does he start to talk about?
His story.
What leadership really is.
What schools does he talk about?
Yale, Harvard, Stanford, MIT.
So what are those schools called?
Ivy League.
Ivy League.
Bam.
And what's he bring up those Ivy League colleges for?
They're known for teaching leaders.
They're known for producing leaders, but what does he say about these leaders? They're not
They're just naturally born leaders.
they're not really leaders. And so if you flip the page to page 2, he references this problem that exists in leadership today. And so he goes from the title to his claim to the fact that Ivy League leaders, they're not really leaders. Okay? Then what does he do?
Talks about a book.
He goes to the book. What's the book called? Heart of Darkness. So the next thing he does is he brings in this Heart of Darkness analogy to prove this point that he just made about leaders. And does he just spend a sentence on Heart of Darkness?
No, he sounds like 4 or 5.
No, he goes into page 3.
A lot of paragraphs.
Yeah, and then the middle of page 3, he starts to talk about bureaucracies. And then he sort of shifts his thinking then at the bottom, and he brings in this key word that carries him throughout page 4. And what's the key word that he brings in? Thinker. And he says that if you're not a thinker, you're not a leader. And so he makes this connection there on the lack of thinking. And then at the end of page 4, the first sentence there, he says, that's the first half of the lecture. So he sort of took his lecture and kind of broke it into 2 halves. Now, I don't want to do this with the whole article. I just want to use this much to convey my point. Okay? If you look up here. This is sort of the summary of the ideas that he included. Do my bullet points represent to you paragraphs? No, because he used 5 paragraphs to talk about the leaders from Ivy Leagues. He probably used 6 paragraphs to talk about this, and for a page and a half, he focused on the fact that there's a lack of thinking. So this is not representative of the number of paragraphs he wrote. It's representative of the way he chunked out his ideas. Do you see what I mean? Okay, can we shift thinking to Everyday Leadership by Drew Dudley?
Yeah.
Okay, so remember back to the TED Talk. We watched it, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody remember how he started? The first thing he said.
Who are leaders? Nope.
No. How many of you in the audience consider yourself a leader?
Yeah, he asked a question. That's exactly it. How many of you in the audience consider yourself leaders? He started with that question, and why do you think he asked that question? Do you remember?
Because he asked like a similar question at the end.
He sort of did. He was hooking the audience in because what was his claim? What is he claiming in his?
That people wouldn't step up and take charge because they thought they had too much power or something.
Yeah, he assumed that many people wouldn't raise their hands because they assume that leadership is something that they can't attain. So he takes that question and he moves then into his argument. So he connects the question into his claim. Then what did he do? It was like most of the speech.
Oh, he told a story.
He told a story about what? The lollipop moments. Okay? And then he explained how the lollipop moments connect into his argument. Because what is a lollipop moment? An active everyday leadership that we often don't even acknowledge or realize we're doing.
And it changes someone's life.
From there, what did he do? Your eyes should be up here. What does he do? You remember what he did next?
Yeah.
What? He quoted Marianne Williamson. Do you remember the quote?
No. Something about
We're not afraid of our darkness. We're afraid of
Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate.
It's that we are.
Our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond all measure. It is our light, not our,
Darkness.
that most frightens us. So he brings in this quote, brings in some evidence, and then he connects that quote back to his argument. So, claim, question, claim, personal experience, connects personal experience back to claim. Quote, connects quote back to claim. That's how he chunked out his ideas. He stuck that personal experience right in the middle. This is what I'm going to ask you to do by Monday. So, take out a piece of paper. Whatever you can take home with you.